It all began in the summer of March 6, 1857, when I was born in Clifton Springs, New York, to Caroline Wesley and David Day Dayton. My family was one of average means and earned just enough to sustain day-to-day needs and wants. You wouldn't believe what I dreamt of becoming as a kid, a minister of all professions. But thankfully that changed as I grew up. I was lured into the business world. Growing up, my life was filled with struggles. As a child, I was an opponent of slavery. Our New York home was a stomp on the Underground Railway for slaves to flee into Canada. My father was a compassionate doctor, a physician in the New York state who served the poor for free. But unfortunately, my father's generosity couldn't help pay for my future. So I set off on my own in 1873 at the mere age of 16 to work in a coal and lumber yard. With my future in my own hands, I gave my all to the job and did whatever it took to earn, even if it meant ignoring my own health. In 1878, I married a beautiful lady named Emma Chadwick in the Presbyterian Church. I'm sure many of you are wondering why I mentioned the church's name specifically. Don't worry, all will be explained in time. My connection with the Presbyterian Church proved to be instrumental to the rise of my success. Most people my age would dream to open a store in a place like Minnesota, but not me. I wanted a bank. So, when I came to Western Minnesota at the age of 24, I did just that and became a banker. In the decades following the Civil War, the upper Midwest was being settled by a tide of European immigrants, German, Scandinavian, and Irish. It was a hard life, but sufficiently full of promise to attract a group of East Coast real estate investors. Impressed by my business acumen, the East Coast real estate investors sent me to Worthington, Minnesota in 1881 to manage their affairs. I quickly recognized the opportunities my new situation presented, and within 2 years I purchased a bank and moved my wife Emma and our young children to Worthington. I also became a pillar of the community, an elder in the Presbyterian Church, and tireless. Essentially self-educated, I had boundless energy and a gift for analyzing economic trends. With a strong religious faith, devotion to my family, and a heavy passion for real estate, I was all the more attracted to Minneapolis. Less than 50 years old at the turn of the century, the city's population had grown to 200,000. It was already a bustling center for lumber and wheat. I was convinced that it was time to diversify my bank's rural holdings with some urban real estate and decided to study the commercial possibilities in the city. I sized up the opportunities of the main thoroughfare, standing on various corners of Nicollet Avenue and counting the passers-by. It was market research at its most basic level. Still, it led me to select what would one day become the most valuable real estate in the city of Minneapolis. Now, during that time, I built First and Sixth at Nicollet, an office building intended for doctors. Construction had already begun when the Panic of 1893 hit. This was a term given for the serious economic depression of 1893. In Worthington, there was a run on the bank, and I felt compelled to notify my contractors in Minneapolis of my precarious situation. But their faith in me as a man who paid my debts never wavered. Thankfully, we were able to recover. The bank survived, the building at 6th and Nicollet went up, and then turned my attention to 7th, where Westminster Presbyterian Church had once stood. The church had burned to the ground for reasons that remain unknown. But I bought the property for $165,000 and started building. I soon moved to town in 1901 and brought my family in the following year. One thing I refused to leave behind was my roll-top desk from the office. But unlike most of the year behind the table, the news that crossed over was not encouraging. You see, I bought out the stock of a dry goods company called Goodfellow. I set up 2 partners in the business with a new building at the corner of 7th at Nicollet. We called it Goodfellow Daylight Store because the windows let the sunlight illuminate the store. But unfortunately, our company began to run under losses, and I had to buy it as a whole just to protect my investment. At the age of 45, I got into the retail business and gave the company my surname, Dayton. The store was doing well now. It was a family venture from the start. My son joined me in the store after graduating from Princeton. He was a natural at the business. Together, we formed a team that brought the business to a new level. We were determined to sell dependable merchandise at the lowest possible prices, fabrics of all sorts, cushions, gloves, and hosiery, shoes, clothing, hats, rugs, and draperies. It was a business built on integrity and innovation. Many in the community were skeptical about the prospects of a small-town banker and his college-educated son running a business. We had a formidable competitor, Donaldson's, whose prestigious glass-block store, so-called because of its windows, had been in business already 20 years. An early innovation was the ad for our inventory sale in June 1903. It got the city talking and generating traffic for a successful sale. Some of our early policies about advertising would become long-standing traditions. We never used superlatives, and we valued favorable word of mouth from customers. More importantly, I believed an advertisement was a reflection of my own high standards of integrity, a promise of honor upon which customers could rely on. Our store even offered to pay $1 to any customer who could find an inaccuracy in our ad, and as a result, our company's ads were both read and believed. While I communicated with the public through ads, I communicated with employees through store-wide meetings. From a balcony overlooking the first store, I would share my plans for the business and offer encouragement to employees assembled below. The average salary in those days was $5 for a 6-day week. I would sometimes sneak a personal note into an employee pay envelope just to make them feel special and recognized. The Panic of 1907, or better known as the 1907 Bankers' Panic, was the second financial crisis that provided an opportunity to win the loyalty of my customers. Although our company was advised not to accept checks, our ads assured customers that the store would not only accept them, but also issue money orders. We were able to deposit $25,000 cash in our local bank account to help the bank through the crisis. This had successfully made us win the gratitude of our customers and the business community as a whole. We started expanding our store from the original 3 floors of merchandise to 6 departments which had been leased to outside companies, including stationery, dressmaking, china, and glassware, and a tea room was absorbed. The Dayton Dry Goods Company was becoming a true department store. In 1910, we changed our name to Dayton Company. A year later, I persuaded my third son Nelson to leave the farm he lived and worked on to join our store. Although agriculture remained his lifelong interest, his focus now was the store, and he proved he could be aggressive. Nelson took over and priced everything at cost for 18 months, long enough to establish the business. He shared his brother's and my competitive spirit and determination to overtake Donaldson's, but we also knew how to grow through cooperation. I helped found the Retail Research Association in 1916. This was a collaborative group of leading stores across the country, including Hudson's in Detroit. Again, 2 years later, we were among the original members of the Associated Merchandising Corporation, or AMC. A disastrous fire in the bitter cold hours of early morning February 17th forced our store to close for the first time in its history. Shops in the Narragansett, including our shoe and silk departments, were incinerated, and although the main store was protected by heavy steel doors, the basement was submerged with 11 feet of water. It took 10 days before the store could reopen, only to be greeted with a loss of $500,000 worth of stock. Still, we found a way to turn even this setback into an advantage. Our first fire sale attracted so many customers that the doors had to be closed to prevent dangerous overcrowding. Our volume had achieved the goal of surpassing our competitors, Donaldson's. In 1923, something happened that made me rethink a lot of things. I lost my 43-year-old son. Saddened to my core, I contemplated selling the store. But my son Nelson stopped me and stepped forward to assume his brother's duties. He made sure to protect the store from becoming dependent again upon anyone. Now I know a lot of you are wondering when did we name the stores Target. Funnily enough, it was decades later. First, we renamed the company Dayton Hudson Foundation in 1969 before we finally named it Target Foundation in 2000. Unfortunately, my story ended before Target became what it is today on February 18, 1938. Success is making ourselves useful in the world, being valuable to the society we live in, and helping in lifting the level of humanity so that when we leave, the world will be somewhat better off having lived the brief span of our lives. My name is George Draper Dayton, and I am the founder of Target. If you guys like that video, please hit the like button. It does wonders for the YouTube algorithm. Just the research and the editing alone of these type of videos takes us close to 18 hours. So we would really appreciate it if you could check out our Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can support our work. We produce over like 12 videos per month, so that's literally 8 cents per video. Thanks so much, guys. Peace out.